Here we come, heading down towards the start finishing line. With my head down, elbows in, feet in, everything tucked in. Trying to get every last bit of speed out of the little 600 as we head off down Bray Hill. Tight to the hedge on the right, flick through the crossroads. We want everything lined up right so I can hold it absolutely flat out through the bottom of Bray Hill. See the bike squirming there as the suspension fully compresses at the bottom of Bray Hill. Now out from the sunshine back into some shade. And as we wind down all the way back down to first gear for the tight right-hander. And you'll see here it's a sunny day, but under those trees there's a lot of shade, which makes it quite difficult to hit your reference points. Have to be very accurate in where you are on the course. And it's very interesting to see the data here and watch, see the brake pressure as we come into the corner, easing the brake off ever so slightly, change the direction, picking that throttle back up as we accelerate and drive hard out of the turn as we work our way out towards Union Mills. And you see very interesting to see the revs of the bike here build up as the bike's over on the side of the tyre. Absolutely flat in 6th gear through that kink as we head up into Union Mills. And we dive back down into the shade again. And you hear the bike squirming there as the suspension's compressing as I'm asking everything I can out of that back tyre, accelerating as hard as I possibly can. You can actually hear the revs of the bike working up and down as the bike squirms on the back suspension. And we're heading up to the Ballygarry big committed corner, flat out in top gear. Drop it back one and drive as hard as you can back on that throttle. Want to carry every bit of speed we can and more as we're heading up towards Crosby in a really fast section of the course. So every bit of speed we can carry out of Ballygarry is going to help in our big run up the next hill. Now that's a fully committed corner there, not lifting an absolute millimetre. It's the throttle wire full tight as we go through that corner, 6th gear and tipping in about 180 miles an hour, so very committed corner. Bit of a wheelie as we come over the crest there and we start heading down towards Greeba Castle. So we see the speed there reaching a maximum of almost 185 miles an hour. Back a couple of gears and on the throttle as we drive down into Greeba Castle. And once again, back down under the shade of those trees, so from bright sunshine into heavy shade. So very, very technical section and made all the harder by the shade of the trees in the sunny afternoon. Just taking a moment there to listen to that engine revving out and reaching its maximum revs in each gear there, right up very close to 16,000 RPM. So the small 600cc engine is absolutely singing. Now we head up here into Gorse Lee, another very, very committed corner. So we drive up absolutely flat from the middle of the corner onwards in 5th gear there as we drive down to Ballacrane traffic lights. So from the last section where we just go, 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 now it's lots of woe as we drop right back to 2nd gear in a slow corner. Middle of the corner back to about 65 mile an hour. And then back up into the trees again and back into that shade. And you see the areas here, the shade under the trees where it really carries, it holds the dampness. So if there's been any rain in the morning or the night before, it takes a long time to dry around the edges of the hedges here and under these trees where it stays damp. And this is where years of racing the TT comes into play, because your knowledge, you know where the track tends to hold the water, where it dries first, and that's so important when you go out here. There's no practice before a TT race that morning. It's straight out into the race. So you know, years of knowledge in racing here prior to coming to the event really come into play. Coming down here through the Glen Helen section. And listen as I build the revs up here. Very, very fast into Glen Helen 1. And then braking and downshifting as we come into Glen Helen 2. Last little gas of power before we drop it back down into very tight 2nd gear left-hander and up the hill towards Sarah's Cottage. Back to 2nd in tight to the bank. Now we're winding the bike up here as we're heading up towards the Cronkovody Straight. So every bit of speed we can carry here is going to help us down the big straight coming up. So asking every bit of we can from that bike as we come out of that last kink and drive up onto Cronkovody Straight. A really fast section here. Helicopter up in the distance I can see. Pit board on the left there. I've just got my signal. This is the last lap, and I think that pit board told me that I was in position 3. Absolutely flat in top gear as we peel off the end of Cronkraboddy Straight. Another very, very committed fast corner. So this is the last lap, and there's less than a second separating several of us on the road. So very, very close race. So past the back marker there, no time to hesitate. Another tricky part of the TT course late in the race when you're coming past slower traffic. There's absolutely no time to roll off to go past. You need to thread the needle and get past those slower riders as quickly as you can. Now we're coming to the top of Bargara here. Roll off, flick it in left, and then drive past the bank. Literally brushing that bank with your left knee as you come past the grass verge there. Driving hard to the bottom of Bargara. Back a gear, big bottom out. And then back on the throttle as we drive on down away from the bottom of Bargara. Chance to catch your breath after that quite an exciting section of the track. It's almost short circuit style here under the trees, but the sort of billiard table smooth the circuit here, so knee buried into the tarmac, driving hard out of here like you would be on a short circuit. Beautiful section of track. Now we're tucked in and we're racing our way down to Kirkmichael. Weight over the front here as you drop down so the bike doesn't wheelie. Back into third gear. Very bumpy entrance to Kirkmichael town. And you hear the vibration of the bike here on the revs as we go over these bumps. And you can see the tacho flicking there because the bike is bouncing off the bumps at such a high speed through Kirkmichael. It almost gives you double vision in the helmet. You're vibrating and bouncing around that much as you go over the bumps. Okay, just feathering the throttle as we almost get airborne over the jump on the way out of exiting Kirkmichael village. And now we're into some very fast corners here. Back up to top gear, tucked in, trying to hold that throttle at 100%. And you see every now and again the throttle trace shows that I'm just dropping off a little bit as I get the bike turned, and then back to 100% throttle again. So come up to Alpine corner, back to fifth, flick it in, wide open in fifth gear. Really head down, tucked in as we're heading down to Ballaff Bridge now. Big straight, very high speed. And see now throttle off, brake pressure up as we're braking from very, very high, sixth gear down to second. Over the jump. Back on the ground and through the gears again. It's interesting here at high speed, you see that my the brake pressure, it's actually showing a slight bit of brake. Now that's actually, I'm not braking there, but I think that's just the ultra high speed and the very fast sections is actually the wind pressure is pulling that front brake lever in slightly. Wouldn't be enough to be applying any brake to the bike, but just enough to set off the sensor on the switch. So it actually shows I'm braking a little bit where I'm actually not. So that's quite interesting. Just shows the high speed of the TT course. Through Quarry Bends. Fifth gear, working the bike left to right. And onto the longest straight of the circuit, Sulby Straight. So this is a section where I get a chance to take a few deep breaths, look down at the dash and look at basically what we're looking at here minus the speed. I look at my revs, I get to look at my water temperature and some other information on the bike and make sure that everything's in check before we head into the next extremely technical section. We cross Sulby Bridge, I should say, and the run from here down to Ramsey is where things get very exciting, very bumpy, very technical, and lots of shade to deal with. So you see once again bright sunshine now backing under these trees, damp patches, shade, some leaves on the edges of the road, very technical, very tricky, lots to look out for. Once again, if you listen, you can hear the bike vibrating over these bumps as it bounces off the road ahead. This section here, definitely by far the most bumpy section of the TT course. Okay, winding our way down past the council yard. So very, very fast section of track, lots of bumps, an exciting part of the course to ride through, and quite a difficult one to master. But we're still asking everything that this little 600 engine can give us here as I'm holding it flat out past the curve that jumps out on you, winding our way down, counting the miles off to Ramsey. Another very bumpy section of turns. It's interesting through here, the speed you're hitting those bumps at, you're compressing the bike so much, the suspension's literally fully bottoming out over some of those bumps on the road, even though you're not going off a hump or a jump. The bumps in the road itself are so big, the suspension's going through all of it straight. And we drive on down now to Ramsey hairpin down into Parliament Square. All the way back to first gear. Knee on the ground, back out into the bright sunshine. You see the revs dart up then as the bike was breaking traction and wheel spinning out of there, and it probably will a little bit up this hill as well. So there's quite a bit of wheel spin through that section, and that's, you know, a tyre that's now done 4 laps of the TT course. So the tyre's quite worn now, and the bike's well up to full racing temperature and pace, and those tyres are really starting to become quite slippery now. They've been through their best, and they're starting to break traction as you're asking everything you can from the bike on the last lap. Back up into the shade now as we come out of the up to the waterworks section. Another section that holds dampness on the track, probably holds water there longer than anywhere else on the circuit. Very close to the hedge on the exit of the waterworks. And back up to the bright sunshine as we come up to the gooseneck. Okay, into the gooseneck, back to first gear, back to 50 miles an hour, and this is where I say the mountain section of the course starts for me. So now I'm on the mountain, bright sunshine, clear road ahead, come out of the gooseneck first gear, and we're just winding our way up onto the mountain section here. And things are getting very, very fast. Completely different type of terrain that you're riding through. It literally feels like you're on a different course because you've come from heavily populated houses, trees, hedges, and lots of shade as you lead into Ramsey, and now you're up onto the mountain, totally open. Apart from a bank on your left and a fence on your right, there's very few reference points, so a very tricky part of the course to know exactly where you're at because of those lack of reference points. So that's another challenge in itself. Now winding our way here up onto the mountain mile. So we want to come through the little kink onto the mountain mile. Dodge the bank there on both sides, the right on the way in, the left on the way out. Now tucked in, up to top gear, and another chance to take a big breath, have a look down at the dash of the bike, check that everything's okay, check the water temperature isn't too high, make sure everything's right before we get into the next technical section. Quite often you'll see the helicopter following you as you head up the mountain. For me as a racer, usually if the helicopter's following you, it's because you're in a good position in the race, so that's usually a good sign. Okay, back to third gear here. Very tricky part of the track as you see the corners up ahead. Totally blind entry, so you need to know the course well because you're turning into a corner that you can't see the middle or the exit of the corner, so you have to have 100% commitment as you come in. Up here, Black Hut, another corner, totally blind. You don't see the middle or the exit of the corner till you're there. And considering you go into that corner 150 miles an hour, you really need to know where you're going. Working our way onto the bungalow section here. Another series of 4 right-hand bends, each one completely blind. Working through there, throttle absolutely flat out in 5th gear. On a good run out of the bungalow. You hear there, asking everything and more of the motor as I run it into the rev limiter in 5th gear. There's a few spots on the course where it's better to just let the bike over rev just a little bit than go up a gear, especially when you're about to brake for the next corner. Back down here, 2nd gear across the tram lines, knee on the deck, just like a short circuit. Hear the bike breaking traction as that back tyre squirms and slides away as I'm asking everything and more of that tyre as I come off the tram lines heading up the hill. Okay, now we've come off the mountain and we're heading downhill. Now you see the difference in the way the bike picks up revs much quicker, because you're going downhill, you've got gravity working with you. Everything happens a little bit faster once you start coming off the mountain than it does going up. So quite tricky actually as you come down to thread the bike through these corners down into Windy Corner. Got an enormous amount of momentum going with you with downhill, carrying a lot of speed, well over 100 miles an hour as you tip through Windy Corner, knee on the ground. Then get everything tucked in, elbows in, and fire your way off down the mountain as we're heading down, winding off down towards Keppel Gate here. Back up to 180 plus miles an hour on the 600, so once again up to the bike's near maximum speed. Again here the bike then just edging itself into that rev limiter before I shift into top gear. Back to second, past Keppel Gate. Back tyre, braking traction. Up to third, tight to the bank. And now we've got the view of the Cregnabar Hotel as we head off down the hill. Massive crowd, bright sunshine. A couple of Australian flags are on the left as we wide down towards the pub. Back down to second gear. On the throttle as early as I possibly can to get maximum drive heading off down towards Brandish. My pit board there on the left, and that pit board just showed me P2 plus nothing minus nothing. So right then I knew that I had everything to race for, absolutely nothing in this race, one of the closest finishes in TT history, and here I was trying to make up every single hundredth of a second in the last couple of miles that I could. So absolutely flat out in the throttle, tucked in as tight as I could behind that fairing, just trying to save every thousandth of a second. I can see John McGuinness here closing in ahead of me, and I didn't have to worry about John costing me any time. He was too far away for that, but this actually probably helped me, if anything, in the last section of the course as a gauge, someone that I could judge to reel in and try to work to make that time up on the rider that was close to me for position in the race. And coming down through Signpost Bend, using every bit of the track, running it right out to the edge of the hedge. Braking as late as possible as we head down into the Nook. It's a fine line between going to the corner too fast and not fast enough, so you've just got to gauge that the best you can, because like I said, I'm trying to make up every thousandth of a second but also not make any silly mistakes. Yellow flag here, so another section of caution. Riders drop some oil there, so have to be a little bit cautious as we go past that. Tucked in, you just hear my bike hesitate then. That was the bike actually starving for fuel as I come down across the finish line to finish the Supersport TT race.